In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to replace the glass only on an iPhone 14 Pro on a budget. This phone currently has a screen protector on it, and it's not like this screen is very broken, but it does have a crack running straight across the middle. Not only is it annoying, but as we know, cracks only get worse over time. These displays are currently more than $300 to replace, and in replacing these displays, you will have the notification that the display has been replaced, and there are other complications that come along with that. So let's see if we can take this display and only replace the glass. First thing that I'm going to do is remove the pin little screws at the bottom so we can take the display off. Now this particular model of phone will not fit in the heated display removal fixture that Apple has for the iPhone 12 series due to the cameras being too big. So I will have to resort to removing the screen with the old tried and true method of heat and suction. Here I have my heat plate set to about 80 degrees Celsius. I'm going to go ahead and set our phone on there and let it heat up for a few minutes. I will be using some 99% isopropyl alcohol around the border to help loosen up the adhesive, and my iSlack Evo to help separate the screen from the frame so I don't have to pry on it. It's getting warm to the touch. Not too hot. I can leave my hand here, no problem. About where I want it, where I can still handle it without issue. Alright, we'll take our section and we'll start to lift, and you can see that it's starting to flex the screen just a little bit at the bottom there, and eventually it should pop out. And I'll continue to add isopropyl alcohol along the border. There you can see the flex cable for the display. I slide the suction over to the other side. There we go. I'm going to take my prying tool here and just assist the top in removing it. Just like that. Leaving all the original adhesive intact down inside the frame. Maybe just a little bit of residue around the border. We'll switch over to our Y000 and remove the screws for the bracket that's holding down the display and proximity sensor flex cables. And if you're doing a single repair like this where there aren't that many screws involved, the little grid pattern here on the underside of the lid of the iFixit kits is a great place to organize the screws, as each one of these screws, although they look very similar, are different lengths. Keeping track of the order of them is crucial when doing these repairs, because if you put back the wrong screw in the wrong place, you could damage the layers of the logic board and make the phone inoperable. One last screw hidden here up top, and the bracket comes off. Now before we disconnect everything, I just want to make sure everything still works, so we're going to go ahead and turn it on and test it. Alright, we still have touch everywhere. The display looks really good. Alright, let's go ahead and get this screen off. And go ahead and power it down. Give it a few seconds and then we'll disconnect the battery. Disconnect the display. And disconnect the proximity sensor. We'll get our heat plate back out so that we can remove the proximity sensor. Now Apple chose to switch over to a standard Philips here, so we're going to go with the PH000. Remove this bracket. Got a little hook there that hooks under part of the frame there. I'm going to carefully peel back, and a couple drops of isopropyl alcohol will really assist in the removal of this flex cable. Some of the adhesive tape didn't come up with it, so let's just get that off real quick. There we go. And we'll carefully remove the sensors from their enclosures here. Be really careful making sure that all comes out nice and smoothly. And we're nearly there. Now the frame without the display looks like this. You got a very thin border where we have the bezel adhered to the glass, and then the display is inside of that. The glass itself, right there you can see, is right outside of this OCA sheet. is where the bezel will go. Now, this is going to pain me to do in this video, but I'm actually going to remove the OCA from this because not everyone has a laminator and autoclave, and I want to show that it is possible to refurbish a display using the old method. Although it's not the cleanest method, it will leave us with a good result. Although it's not the cleanest method, it will still leave us with a good result, and it'll still work just fine. It just won't be as quick and as tidy as if we used a laminator, an autoclave with the OCA sheet that's pre-installed on this particular glass. So the next course of action is to cut into the bezel, and we're going to be separating the display and the bezel from the glass at the same time. All right, we will bring back our heat plate. We've got this set at 80 degrees Celsius again. This time we are going to take our suction mat here. Now this mat is so sticky that it can actually be used without suction, but it does line up with the holes in this vacuum plate to give us that extra assurance. And this thing, when it sticks to it, I mean, you can see it sticks. So I'm not worried about taping it down, things like I've done before. This was a thing. So the goal is going to be to get the wire right on top of the glass, but under the bezel, and keep it always pressed against the glass so that the wire wants to cut and get the display off without damaging it. So go ahead and stick that on there and turn on our suction. So here I have my gold wire. It's a 0.035 millimeter titanium wire that's going to allow me to cut in between the display and the bezel there. So I positioned it in this corner so that I can get decent leverage to make sure the edge of the wire is really pulling down on the edge of the glass, so that especially the first cut is the most important. I really want to ensure that as I cut back and forth that I'm getting under the display and not into any of the layers. Just wanted to show you where we've gotten to so far. Not too far, but I can tell that I'm definitely in the right layers here. There's no delamination in the display from as far as I can see. We're going to keep on making our way all the way across until we end up with the display without the glass. All right, so you can see right here, I've got a little bit of, not a big issue, but the wire is on top of the OCA on one side of the line here, and it's on the bottom of the other. Not a big deal, but it is causing it to be harder to pull in this particular area, and this machine is sliding around a lot on the table, so I'm going to see what I can do about the sliding real quick. All right, now that I've gotten all the way down through it, I do one more pass to help kind of cut any of the adhesive that might still want to hold on to it. And we can lift it up and away. And there we go. You can see clearly the one crack running through it. And unfortunately, the majority of the adhesive did end up on the display, which isn't the end of the world. It just means more cleanup. But before we go any further, let's test it out. Go ahead and connect our proximity sensor. We'll connect the display, reconnect the battery, and fingers crossed, everything still works. And there we go, Apple symbol. So far, so good. Now the touch might be a little finicky just because it's gonna be sticky, but we should be able to test everything. And as you can see, there's no damage to the display. You can kind of see the the way that the adhesive was cut. You can see we've got touch everywhere. Yep, there we go. To clean this up, here I've got a little wire whip. There's that way, and then there's the rubbing way with the finger. And if you get lucky, you can pull. The more you can get up, the cleaner the result will be. But obviously this takes time, and there are other ways to do it. Certain chemicals that you can use to help. With 100% pure acetone. Nearly there. All right, got a new clean room wipe. Gotta get rid of all of the specks. And today I'm going to be using the LOCA method, which stands for Liquid Optical Clear Adhesive. I typically don't use the LOCA for many repairs. And I don't use it because I have a laminator and autoclave, but not everyone has those machines or has $1,000 or $2,000 for that matter to drop on a decent laminator slash autoclave to laminate glass and remove any bubbles. And LOCA is extremely inexpensive, especially for the amount that you need to use per repair. And all you need instead of a $2,000 machine setup is a inexpensive UV light. Now the teeny tiny specks will simply be absorbed, not specks like this, but maybe specks like those in the middle that you can see will simply be absorbed by the LOCA. Whereas if you were laminating, you'd still probably be able to see them. There we go. Ready for LOCA. This is the UV LOCA that we're going to be using. And before we go further, we're going to have to do what pains me to do, which is to remove the pre-installed OCA. Now the OCA is cut out around the holes there at the top. We don't want to let it tear, so we're going to go slowly. Clean up the little bit of residue that was left in that corner. All right. I used to do this all the time back in the day with the Samsung Galaxy S3, S4, S5. We'll slowly set it down. You don't want to get any bubbles. You can see it started right here. And I'm going to let that travel nice and slowly. We want it to create this pattern without letting bubbles get caught. So far so good. And there, we got a bubble there. I can deal with that later. Let's just let this spread out evenly to all sides. This could take a little bit of time, but yeah, we'll just wait and let the surface tension do its thing. What's really kind of unique is, I don't know if you can tell, but it's actually traveling around the camera hole. It's not actually going, the Loca isn't spreading over it. The surface tension is actually pulling it around it, just keeping with the display as it disappears off into the edges. All right, we are almost there. We've got a little bit in this corner over here, a little bit up there, and that last little bit under the ear speaker area is disappearing. I just need to finalize this, make sure it's completely centered, because as soon as those corners disappear, I'm just gonna cure it with the UV light. So I want to make sure everything's perfectly aligned. All right, so we are all done. All I need to do now is here I've got UV light. And we're gonna hit it with the UV light here as I verify that we're solid in the right spot. It looks good. And something I want you to see is look at the lens where the camera is gonna go. There is no Loca that's covering up that lens there. So I'm gonna just cure the edge, make sure it's as there's a teeny bit but nothing covering up the glass there, which is perfect. So we'll just cure that for a second. And you can see we didn't have any squeeze out of Loca anywhere on any edge. Now I'm just going to pass over with the UV light for a few minutes until we're solid on all sides and everywhere. Also, I'm going to go along the border and really hit it hard with the UV light. For any of the Loca that kind of got on top of the bezel, I really want to solidify that so the bezel has something else to stick to as well. Now, as kind of a last step, I'm going to take some of my cold press glue here. I'm going to go around the border here. I'm a little shaky right now. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to rub in to that little gap there with this cold press. Take some more acetone and wipe off the excess. And we'll let that a little bit of bead of glue along the border and cure to give us that little bit more rigidity on the bezel to the glass. And I'm going to do that on all the sides. One last final go around the edge. With some acetone to kind of just clean it up, make it look like a brand new display. We will grab our proximity sensor and line everything back up. And push that back down in. Grab our bracket, put it back over the top, and put back the corresponding Phillips screws. Alright, we'll reconnect the proximity sensor assembly there, the display. And in this case, the original seal is pretty much perfect, as you can see, so I'm just going to reuse it. We'll reconnect the battery. Switch over to our Y000 and put back the corresponding screws. I like to start by putting back two of the corners. That way everything else lines up. And I'm not fighting it to get back into place. Go ahead and put the top back in. Push down all the sides. And now we'll put in the bottom two screws. Go ahead and turn it on. You see touch is working perfectly. I did have a little bit of the glue come up and over the edges, so I'm gonna carefully go around and clean off the edges again with the acetone. And there we go. Not a single speck of dust, perfectly aligned, perfect display, perfect touch, all done on a nice friendly budget. And there we go. There is the old glass and all of the adhesive. A brand new looking iPhone 14 Pro. If you want yours repaired, there will be a link in the description. Hopefully you found this entertaining and educational. Thanks a ton for watching. We'll see you in the next video.